Hey everybody, it's Gus with Egypt Adventures Travel. I make customized itineraries for people's trips to Egypt. I have over 10 years of experience of living in Egypt and traveling there. I speak fluent Arabic and I lead guided tours myself. So get in touch today, shoot me an email, and let's talk about your trip to Egypt. In today's video, I'm going to tackle the question that I get asked all the time of how to buy a visa in order to travel to Egypt, and whether travelers should buy a visa in advance, called the e-visa or electronic visa, or whether they should just buy the visa upon arrival at the airport. So let's dive in and talk about the entry visa to visit Egypt. For folks who want the quick and dirty answer, I always recommend buying the visa at the Cairo International Airport upon arrival. So that's the quick answer to the question. I always buy the visa upon arrival, but I want to dive in even more to talk about the difference between the electronic visa and the visa upon arrival, who needs to worry about purchasing a visa, and all of that good stuff. So first, who needs a visa in order to enter Egypt? Egypt has a list of countries that can enter Egypt without a visa at all, or getting a visa upon arrival, meaning you don't have to do anything ahead of time, applying at an embassy, doing an interview. You can just show up and get your visa. So visa upon arrival, or there are some nationalities where travelers will need to apply for a visa in advance. You'll need to talk to the Egyptian embassy or consulate in your country for that type of visa. For folks traveling from the United States to Egypt, Canada, countries in Europe, Australia, you don't need to worry about getting a visa in advance of your trip. You can show up at the airport with $25 US dollars cash in hand and buy your visa at the airport. For all other nationalities, if you have questions about whether you need a visa in order to visit Egypt, check the video description below. I've dropped a link from the Egyptian government that goes over what countries need to get what type of visa in order to travel. So let's pretend that I'm somebody from the United States, I have a US passport, and I want to travel to Egypt. I have two different visa options that I can get. I can either get a visa online in advance of my trip. This is called the e-visa or electronic visa. I can also get a visa at the airport. This is the visa upon arrival. So that's the second type. The pros and cons for each visa vary, and some people prefer one over the other. So I'm just going to talk a little bit more about the electronic visa versus the visa upon arrival at the airport and what you can expect in terms of the pros and cons for each option. I'll start with the visa upon arrival at the airport. This is my preferred method of getting a visa to Egypt. This is how I've done it every single trip I've done to Egypt in the last 10 years, and this is how I always tell my travelers to go. This visa is a sticker that you put inside of your passport and you buy it from a bank teller at Cairo International Airport. This is great because number one, it's really convenient. You just go to the airport, land from your flight, go up to a bank teller. You can exchange foreign currency there and you can buy your visa at the same time. You'll need to have $25 US dollars in cash in order to buy your visa. I always recommend bringing a $20 bill and a $5 bill, or if there's two people in the group, a $50, or four people, a $100 bill. I do not recommend bringing ones, and you definitely cannot pay for this visa using coins. So $25 US dollars cash, have your passport ready, and you'll be able to get a little sticker that will go inside your passport by the customs officer when you go through immigration. The only con to this method is that some travelers have said that they've had to wait in a long line in order to get the visa. The longest line I've heard travelers had to wait in was a line of 1 hour. Over the last 10 years of travel to Egypt, I've never waited in a line to get this visa upon arrival for longer than 10 minutes. I think what could be happening are a few different things. Factor number one, I usually always arrive to Cairo Airport just based on the flights I take. I fly from Minneapolis, St. Paul International Airport. I take Delta or Air France or KLM over, and I'm always landing at the airport in Cairo at night, usually around 11:30 p.m., midnight, 12:30 in the morning. So maybe that's why I never really have to wait in line. And maybe the terminal that I land in, because I'm landing in a separate terminal than somebody who flies a different airline, for example. Maybe that terminal just historically has shorter lines at the visa counter. I'm not sure, but I've never experienced a long line. The other factor could be that folks who are waiting in line for a visa are waiting in line at the very first bank teller. So when you come down the escalator from your flight, you'll see multiple banks, and usually people queue up outside the closest one. But you could go to any of those bank tellers and use your $25 to purchase a visa. So if you see a long queue at one of the banks, just go over to another one and say, hey, I'd like to buy my entry visa to Egypt. Here's my passport. Here's my $25. Now let's talk about the e-visa. The e-visa is put out by an online website portal from the Egyptian government, and it costs the same exact amount as buying the visa at the airport, $25. Do not get scammed by any of these websites out there that sell visas to Egypt but add on all these fees in order to process the visa or expedite it. Just go with the visa website from the Egyptian government. I've linked it in the video description below. When you go to this website, you'll have to fill out a lot of information like your name, your passport, dates that you're traveling, why you're traveling to Egypt, yada, yada, yada. I actually went through this process in February before I went to Egypt last March. And I filled out all the paperwork. It took me about 40 minutes online. And then I got an email later saying that they had charged my credit card $25 for the visa, but that my information was incorrect. So I had to go back to the form. I had to try to figure out, where did I mistype something? They said it didn't match my passport. I think ultimately what happened was I missed a section where they said first name, family name, and then they said additional name. And maybe what they mean by that is your middle name. I'm not sure. But I tried filling in the information that I thought was correct, and I actually got my application rejected a second time. The website kept my $25. I didn't get a visa, and I had to buy one at the airport anyway. So this is the major con of using this electronic visa option, is that it's tricky to fill out the paperwork online, and at the airport, it's so easy. They just give you that sticker right away after looking at your passport and taking the $25 cash. So that's the major con. But the pros of getting the e-visa, some people love having their visa right away. They like that security of knowing I've got my visa, it's approved, here it is. And then another pro is that you don't need to do it at the airport. So it's one less step you have to take when you get to Cairo International Airport. So that's it for today's video. I talked about the two different types of visas for tourists who need to have a visa to arrive to Egypt, but can get one on arrival. The e-visa or electronic visa, and the visa upon arrival, that's the sticker you buy at Cairo International Airport. I will also link in the video description a blog post that I wrote going over this topic if you'd prefer to read instead. And I'm really looking forward to hearing from more travelers for me to help out with their Egypt adventures. Again, I'm Gus with Egypt Adventures Travel. Until next week.